Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back to another week of Familia. Welcome to those that are joining us online. I won't say it this week. So the past couple weeks we've been talking about Familia, La Familia Madrigal. No, we're not talking about Bruno. Last week we talked about in God's family we reconcile each other. What's reconcile mean? Big word. Restore relationships. Restore relations with each other. And this week we're going to be talking about in God's family, we love each other. Love it. So we're getting closer to narrowing down what love actually means. But even among the people we love most, there are different kinds of love. All right? There's different kinds of love in your family, like one parent loves another kid more than the other.
Never.
How come he always gets stuff? So we're going to do a quick little video clip, and then we're going to have Jeremy come up and explain it. Okay?
That's not the first one.
It's not the first one? Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. So go ahead, play it.
I don't know how to explain this one.
Yeah. We've all seen this movie.
I love him, but I don't care who knows it. I love him, but I don't care who knows it.
So, maybe you said something like that before. I mean, not in public, but maybe you went into your room after school, or you just met somebody, and I'm in love. I mean, secretly you're saying it inside. You're like, oh, look at that person. So whether you're talking about a crush, a friend, or a parent, or a relative, you could probably do that for your parents, but in a different tone. So, so what is it like to love someone? Is love a feeling? Or is it something you do? Or is it both? Can you love someone without always feeling like you love them? Yes. Especially if you don't know the person, but we're going to get there. If all you do is feel like you love someone, does that make it true? Is it true love? How many of us have watched a cheesy romantic comedy where somebody's over the top, like The Notebook or something, and it's just, or another movie with bad acting in it, and you can tell it's really bad acting. So when it comes to our families, we need to talk about what it means to love them. All right, so let's group up here. Get with somebody sitting close to you, and let's go through these questions. What is something you really love right now?
Bring your three kids together.
Yeah, and then we can pick a few to answer. Second question, what are some ways people make you feel loved with their words? Last question, what about with their actions?
Okay, so that would be the last one. What about her actions? So she's showing. She's proud of you. And she loves you. All right, so the actions one. Yeah, keep going.
I do the best.
Does she have some dishes to do today? Elena does. For other reasons, I don't trust you with the dishes. Take I'm going to the dishes.
All right, we ready?
Yes.
Okay. So what is something you really love right now? This group.
Dance moms.
Dance moms?
Show. It's a great show. TikTok.
TikTok? What's that? Word of life? This group.
I said making cash.
Making cash?
Making money. Me too.
Show me the money.
I just said, right now it's just football.
Football?
And farms.
Firearms? All right.
Firearms, you said? Yeah. All right.
I put Mercedes and Grant. So what are some ways people make you feel loved with their words? Real quick.
Words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. How about this group?
I just said reassurance.
Reassurance.
Thanks.
Words.
When somebody thanks me.
Someone thanks you.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so yeah, words of encouragement, affirmation. What about with their actions?
Gifts.
Gifts. Gifts. How about you guys?
You just said like when they make time for you.
Let me make time for you.
Ooh,
That's a good one.
that's a good one.
Oh, yeah. Getting gifts, getting a back rub or a back scratch, or a hug. Okay. Now, I'm going to play another video clip and then have Jeremy come up and explain. So go ahead.
Today we're going to learn about family. Mother. No, they're deaf. They don't talk. Father.
Mother, father,
Mom and dad.
mom and dad,
Stepmom.
stepmom,
He spelled out stuff.
S-T-E-P. Stepdad.
stepdad,
Daughter.
daughter,
Son.
son,
Wait, what was different? Yeah.
You did it.
One came from the chin, one came from the forehead.
Oh.
Stepdaughter.
oh, they're going through them all.
Yeah, that's why I asked you before you wanted to go. Stepson.
So why don't we pause that there?
All right, so key here, just so you understand. All right, all the women signs start below the chin. All the male signs start above the chin, or up in the forehead. So when you said father or mother, when you said son, it started here, or brother, or sister.
What was family?
Family. S.
So for the last few weeks, we've been learning to say family in different languages. And there are thousands of ways to say family. And Diane went through a bunch of countries and how to say family. You go ahead. So when Jesus was on earth, he spent a lot of time with his followers. But one of the disciples he spent the most time with was John. And it was a good thing John could read and write. Otherwise, we wouldn't have, well, he probably would have had somebody scribe it for him. But John saw Jesus teach, heal people, perform miracles, and do ministry. He was even there when Jesus died and later after he rose from the dead. After Jesus left earth, John was a part of the first wave of Jesus' followers who created the first church communities where people could worship and learn about Jesus together. As the church grew, John began writing letters to God's family of believers about how they could turn their love for Jesus into action. So going on to Scripture. 1 John 4:7-12. Dear friends, let us love one another, for love comes from God. Everyone who loves has been born of God and knows God. Whoever does not love does not know God, because God is love. This is how God showed his love among us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that we might live through him. This love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his Son in his atoning sacrifice for our sins. Dear friends, since God so loved us, we also ought to love one another. No one has ever seen God, but if we love one another, God lives in us, and his love is made complete in us. So, John saw Jesus teach. Oh, we already did that. Moving on. Go to the next slide. So, according to John, we can't fully understand what it means to love apart from God. The origin and definition of love comes from God. So God invented love and gave us the ability to feel love. God created the earth and the heavens and the water and the animals. He created us. He also invented love. But God went a step further by demonstrating love for us through Jesus. We were so loved that God came to earth as Jesus, suffered and died, forgave us before we ever asked to be forgiven, and made it possible for our relationship with God to be restored. So God sent Jesus, and God is Jesus, so God was able to feel the pain that we feel through his death. Just like Jesus loved us with his actions, John tells us to love each other with our actions. So how do we do that? You go to the next one. I told you a moment ago that John spent a lot of time with Jesus as one of his closest disciples. That meant John was an eyewitness to some of Jesus' biggest moments. The Gospel of John is the retelling of much of Jesus' life through John's eyes. In it, we can read the story of what Jesus said and did in the last days and hours leading up to his death. In John, we see Jesus knew his death was near, but instead of spending his time thinking about his own comfort or safety, Jesus spent his time comforting his disciples before he was arrested and taken away to be killed. Jesus gave his closest friends some parting words, including these. Before we go on to that, can you go back for a second? Yep. So, Jesus knew he was about to be crucified. He could have said, peace, I'm heading out. But he didn't run because he wanted to comfort the ones he loved. Because he knew what was coming. And he knew that if he left, those disciples would have left too. Then they would have stopped following him. Okay, you can go ahead. Before we do that, do you see how love is a part of everything? Oh no, yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I'm getting all my things messed up. John 15, 9 through 17. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you, that your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends if you do what I command. I no longer call you servants, because a servant does not know his master's business. Instead, I have called you friends, for everything that I learned from my Father I have made known to you. That's big. Everything that God knows, he gave to Jesus, and Jesus gave to us, or gave to his disciples, and those disciples gave it to us in the Bible. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last, and so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. This is my command: love each other. So go back a little bit. So it says, you are my friends if you do what I command. Now go ahead. This is my command: love each other. Go back one more. Sorry, let's skip it. Verse 13. Greater love has no one than this, to lay one's life down for one's friends. What do you think of when you see that scripture? Military? So there was a Navy SEAL who was on the rooftop with all of his buddies, and the enemy tossed the grenade up right in the middle of them all. One guy out of that platoon jumped on the grenade and took the full impact of the grenade. He laid down his life for all of his friends so that they may live on.
To add to that, though, laying down your life doesn't have to be your physical life. It could mean that you've got plans, but a friend needs you, and you lay what you were supposed to be doing aside to give or comfort or be with that person because they need you at that time. So it's laying down what we want to do to serve Jesus in that way. It doesn't necessarily mean. Often people think of it as a physical life, but if we all did that, none of us would be here, right? So we got to think about how we can do it in our daily lives as well.
So go ahead. One more. There you go. So do you see how love is a part of everything Jesus says here? Because of God's love, Jesus loves us. Because of Jesus' love for us, we can love others. When we love each other, we demonstrate our love for God. Real quick, when Grant was born, I was holding him for the first time in the hospital, and I just couldn't get over how much you could love one human being more than anything in the world. And I sent that to Jeremy, and he responds back with this. Now, think about that love that you're feeling and how much God, our Father, loves you. And that was like a light bulb went off. And that's what I think about all the time is no matter what you do, you guys will see if you guys have kids when you're older, what it means. So when you guys have kids, think about that. And you'll feel it too. Go ahead. 1 John 3:16-18. This is when I wish Kalani was here. This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us. And we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers and sisters. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with our actions and truth. So verse 17. If anyone has material possessions and sees a brother and sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? So if you see a person in need, and you have an extra pair of gloves, and they're standing outside, and their hands are freezing, and you don't offer them to them, you're not showing the love of God to that person. And this is what Jeremy was talking about, how laying your life down on the line for somebody is not just taking a bullet for them. It's literally just stretching out God's love to them and asking them what they need. I think I'm a pretty empathetic person. We went to a concert the other day, and I like to people watch. I like to sit in the back, or we were just sitting in the car waiting to go into the concert, and just watching people go by. And I just feel, sometimes I feel not bad for people, but I can feel that they're sad or what they're going through, and I just want to go up and hug them. But that's God's love. It's being empathetic towards people. Okay. So let's see. Go ahead. See, that's there. Okay, you can go back one. Jesus gave everything for us, so we should be willing to give anything for each other. It's not enough to say we love each other with our words. We have to love each other with what we do. Jesus never intended any of us to be identified by our profile picture or what we put on our TikTok bios. If you just put Christian. That's your name. You have to put that on there. But if you just put Christian up there, and it's verified and everything. Yeah, you're verified that you're Christian. But what are your actions and your words saying about that? Instead, Jesus wants his family to be identified by the way we love one another. God's family is a big, diverse, global, multicultural family. But the shared DNA, who knows what DNA is? I'm not going to say it. Nucleic acid. Jacob knows. But the shared DNA of God's family is love. We can love each other because we are loved by God. Because in God's family, we love each other. Go ahead. Make sure we're matching up here. Love with your words. I'm sure we can all think of a moment when our words towards our family members have been less than loving. So, there's something I'm going to read next, but Jeremy also gave me something else in the past that has worked. I'm going to read this first. Stop before you react. Pause. Think about what you want to say, and then pause a little bit longer. Another thing Jeremy's told me was halt. If you're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, think about what you're going to say or you're going to do. Because if one of those four things is off, I had to count on my fingers, don't worry. Saw 3 fingers up, but I didn't count my thumb. Then you need to reevaluate, take a step back, and think about what you're going to do. And if it's not something that needs to be said, don't say it. But if it is, say it lovingly. Your words carry a lot of weight. The things you say to your family have the potential to do a lot of harm. But chosen with love, they have the potential to do a lot of good. So, I've just been trying to think of an example all morning. I don't know. What's something that you'd say to your family member just to really, just to get them in the ribs, a little jab?
I beat you.
I beat you. What are you doing, you idiot? That's not how you put your shoes on.
How about stealing your brother's crop and throwing it out the window?
Ooh.
Because that happened to him. But like when you were driving, it was just parked in the parking lot. So just take it, slide off their foot and,
Chuck it out the window.
yep, and make them go get it.
Slight. Yeah, that's. So if you say things a certain way and they come off condescending, then it's going to have a negative impact. And if you're just trying to get them to do something different, I worked at Lowe's and there was this one kid who I had never worked a machine before, the carpet machine, and we're trying to get some carpet out for a customer. And he's going, "What are you doing?" Blah, blah, blah. And he called me a few names, and I almost strung him up on the carpet rack because we were right in front of the customer. And I said, "You know what? Before I do anything I'm going to regret, I go, you can do this yourself." Now, he could have said, on the other hand, "Hey, do you know how to run this machine? Because if not, we can go a little slower and I'll show you how to do it." And that's where God's love comes in, is taking that negative and flipping it around to a positive. And actually showing the person how to do something. That's probably why they had me train all the new people that came in. So if loving your family with words is hard, here's a small start. I love you. Thank you. You're funny, Becky. Love your jokes. Something I like about you is, I thought it was nice when you took the trash out for me. I appreciate it when you don't take my stuff. Jeremy always said, "I love you, but what you're doing is stupid." And you know what? That's a good way to say it too, because I love you, but come on, man. I love you. Don't do that. Always be real with your words. Love is honest and authentic and not manipulative. And love with your actions. So love with your actions. Don't be throwing the sandal out the window as you out of the car. What does love mean to your family? And if you don't know that, you might want to figure that out. Because it will make things run smoother in the household. What if you feel loved if you never helped around, oh my goodness, let me start that over. Would they feel loved if you helped around the house more?
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. What if you spent more time with them? I always liked it. I'm the youngest out of 4, and I always liked it when my oldest siblings spent time with me, especially before they went off to school. What if you invited them to do something fun? I know your friends are with you. You don't want your little sibling around being annoying. What if you complained a little less or started conversations a little more often? Just stuff to think about. And finally, love through forgiveness. So, is forgiving your family members hard sometimes? Depending on what they do. My brother used to wear my shoes to work. And he is a size 9, I am a size 12. And I'm looking for my shoes in the morning, wondering where they are. A brand new pair of shoes. And he did roof construction. I get home, and I see my shoes sitting there, and they are soaked. And covered in tar and rubber. Come on, dude. So if you have that family member who always takes your clothes.
Correct.
Just means they want to be like you.
Yep.
Just means they want to be like you. That's
Maybe you need to ask them if they need to go shopping. Yeah. Sometimes we like the attention we get from the drama we or them can start. That comes from what happens. So if one of them punches you or taps you lightly, and then they turn around and just clock you, and then all of a sudden it turns into a brawl in the back seat. We used to chuck cans at the back of each other's heads. We were bad. My parents, behave in the car. We're going into the store for a minute. 10 minutes later, I come out. We got a couple black eyes, and so there's 2 questions. How often do you make mistakes, and how often do you regret it? And when you do, how often is God willing to forgive you? Every single time, God is willing to forgive you. I know forgiveness isn't always easy. Sometimes we refuse to forgive when forgiveness would be easy. Maybe that's because we're selfish, stubborn, or difficult. Whatever the reason is, if you're holding on to unforgiveness when they could easily let it go, then let it go. Cancel that debt. Imagine you stamped it with a giant paid stamp sign, okay? Whatever you're holding a grudge against, anybody, doesn't have to be family. Just forgive them for it and pray for them. Because praying for them helps you forgive them. It clears your conscience. If God can forgive us eternally, we can forgive each other. Even if we sometimes have to forgive each other repeatedly, that's what love would do. I didn't print off these, but that's okay. I know it can be a challenge sometimes to demonstrate love clearly to your family. So to help, I want you to choose just one family member you're going to love on purpose this week.
Becky.
Don't pick the easy one. Or, I don't know, maybe Elena? She's not in here to defend herself, so. Pick one person in your family this week. Go ahead, right now. Think of that one person. Okay? Now, going back to one of these 3 steps, are you going to love them with your words, love them with your actions, or love through forgiveness? Or all 3. Because love is all 3. By choosing to love others, even in a small way, we are reflecting the love God has for us. And that love can change everything. Just like God didn't just say, I feel love for you. Can you imagine that? Someone coming up and going, I feel love for you. I feel love for you.
Walk down the hallways on the first day of school, say that.
Yeah.
See how that goes. She might be the most popular person in school.
Or they, you know. You're going to start something. The rumor mill will be swirling. But God just didn't say, I feel love for you. He said, I love you. By coming to earth and proving it, we call to love each other with our words, our actions, and our forgiveness. I don't know about you, but that's the kind of love I want to be known for. It just isn't a feeling, but a choice. Next. Because in God's family, we love each other. That's all right. And that's that.
Yep, perfect.